Welcome to our channel, where art meets audiobooks. We make your dream of having your photo transformed into a masterpiece and showcased in a virtual gallery a reality. But before we dive into the world of art and imagination education, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe for your daily dose of inspiration, and comment below for a chance to see your own image brought to life in our digital gallery.
Hello. Today, I'm going to discuss the book, What Life Could Mean to You, The Psychology of Personal Development. I will summarize the main points of the book by addressing 3 questions. What motivates a person to transcend oneself? How can one change behavior to achieve self-transcendence? And how can one realize the meaning of life in the process of transcending oneself? Let's start with a story. This is about a child's difficult childhood. He was frail from a young age, almost died from pneumonia, suffered from rickets, was short in stature, and had poor athletic ability. To make matters worse, he experienced 2 car accidents. However, this underprivileged and insecure child eventually turned things around. Often ill, he decided to become a doctor and finally enrolled in the University of Vienna's medical doctoral program, realizing his dream. Incredibly, he also caught the eye of one of the world's most famous psychologists, studied with him for 9 full years, and became a master of psychology, eventually founding a new school of psychological thought. This theory embodies his experience of transcending himself and changing his destiny, as well as his reflections on the meaning of life. The story I just told is the personal experience of Alfred Adler, the author of What Life Could Mean to You. The theory founded by Adler is what the book introduces as individual psychology. The famous psychologist who appreciated him was the renowned Freud. However, the relationship between Adler and Freud was not one of affectionate mentorship, but rather competitive rivalry. Adler, Freud, and another named Jung were known as the Big Three of psychology. All 3 engaged in psychoanalysis, but Adler increasingly found Freud's connection of everything to sexual impulses absurd. Finally, he could no longer tolerate it, published 3 articles criticizing Freud, and set out on his own with some followers, founding individual psychology based on his thoughts. So, what's innovative about individual psychology? Freud believed that people's destinies were determined by biological instincts. But individual psychology emphasizes the influence of social factors on individuals, arguing that anyone can achieve life's goals and change their destiny through effort. In essence, Adler's life is an inspiring comeback story. His individual psychology, combined with his personal charisma, resonated with the public, making it widely popular. Part 1. First, let's explore what motivates us to transcend ourselves. In Adler's view, no matter your achievements or your environment, you will never be satisfied with your current state and will always strive to surpass yourself. No matter who you are, you desire to better your situation. Why is that? According to individual psychology, it's because 2 fundamental human emotions drive us, a sense of inferiority and a sense of superiority. Generally, we think that not everyone feels inferior. Perhaps only those with poor circumstances or a lack of confidence feel this way. But Adler argues that everyone feels inferior, and this feeling is the driving force behind human progress and the foundation of human culture. Therefore, in his individual psychology, the feeling of inferiority is a core concept. Some people may appear shy or hesitant, or, like Adler himself as a child, frail and poor-performing in school. We can understand why they might feel inferior, but what about those who seem strong or even arrogant? Do they also feel inferior? Indeed, according to Adler, they do, and perhaps even more so. He gives an example in the book. 3 children visit the zoo for the first time and see a lion. They are all scared. The first child hides behind his mother, saying, "Mom, I want to go home." The second stands frozen, face pale, but insists, "I'm not scared at all." The third glares at the lion as if courageously and even asks his mother, "Mum, can't I spit at it?" Adler explains that all 3 children are afraid and insecure. They just express it differently. The same goes for inferiority, Some may appear arrogant, but in reality they feel deeply inferior. Unable to address the root problem, they deceive themselves into believing, "I'm better than others, otherwise they can't survive." This way they actually feel more inferior, but appear dominant. With this explanation, you might recognize such people around you, those who brook no disagreement, who may turn on you or undermine you for even a slight objection. They are fragile and can't withstand challenges. They appear strong but are hollow inside, riddled with inferiority. In individual psychology, everyone has a sense of inferiority, just expressed differently. It's essential to stress that Adler does not see this feeling as negative. Quite the contrary, he believes it is vital for human progress and the foundation of human culture. Why? Because the inferiority he speaks of is actually dissatisfaction with oneself, leading everyone to want to change their state of being. In other words, in individual psychology, the concept of inferiority is fundamental. It's not a derogatory term or an unhealthy mindset, but a neutral word. Apart from the feeling of inferiority, there's another mindset that everyone possesses, a sense of superiority. Adler says that everyone has a feeling of inferiority, and everyone wants to compensate for this feeling by seeking superiority. Thus, these two feelings are two sides of the same coin. What kind of superiority a person seeks, or what goals they want to achieve, is related to their personal sense of inferiority. Adler gives some examples, such as many doctors who experience the death of family or friends during their childhood, leading to a feeling of insecurity in life. To compensate for this inferiority, they choose to become doctors to fight against death, thus realizing their sense of superiority. However, in most cases, the sense of superiority is not a clear goal, nor is there only one way to achieve it. Many people cannot articulate what superiority they seek. They must explore slowly, and even when they find a definite goal, there are different ways to achieve it. The way you compensate for your inferiority and achieve superiority reflects your personality, or in Adler's terms, your attitude toward life. In individual psychology, the feeling of inferiority is like an engine propelling you from behind, and the sense of superiority is like a locomotive pulling you forward. Together, they provide the power to transcend oneself, allowing you to sprint on the track of self-improvement. Adler specifically warns against going off the rails in the pursuit of self-transcendence. You must not run in the wrong direction due to anxiety and fall into the pitfall of an inferiority complex. What is an inferiority complex? It means that if a person cannot resolve real problems and fears facing difficulties, they must set those issues aside and seek a sense of superiority in trivial matters. The paper tigers we just discussed are an example of this complex. Unable to do things well or solve real problems, they can gain superiority by suppressing criticism. Adler shares another example in his book, the story of a 16-year-old troubled girl who started stealing at age 6 or 7 and staying out all night mingling with men from age 12. In talking with her, Adler discovered that the girl had never received love and care, and her parents divorced when she was 2. Her mother neither loved nor cared for her, leading to her resentment. The girl finally admitted, "I don't like stealing or messing around with those boys. I do this to show my mother that she can't control me." She was using these actions to take revenge on her mother. Adler explained that this behavior is an inferiority complex. The girl is confronting her mother, but without her mother's strength, she cannot solve the real problem. She can only compensate for her inferiority and gain superiority through other means, such as stealing, staying out all night. In pursuing superiority, she has merely taken the wrong direction. Other behaviors like reclusion, criminality, laziness, and adolescent rebellion are results of taking the wrong path in compensating for inferiority and seeking superiority without setting the right attitude toward life. The above discussion answers the first question about what motivates human self-transcendence. In summary, we all have feelings of inferiority and strive to transcend it by seeking superiority. These feelings drive us to surpass ourselves and form the foundation of human progress. But be careful not to adopt the wrong methods due to excessive anxiety, as this may lead to an inferiority complex, resulting in problems like reclusion and criminality. Part 2. Now let's look at how one can change their behavior to achieve self-transcendence. If you've heard even a little about Freud's theory, you surely know that Freud emphasizes the impact of childhood experiences on a person. He argues that a person's character is basically formed by the age of 5 or 6. If you have any behavioral issues as an adult, such as timidity or shyness, you need to trace back to your childhood to see if you were frightened by something or someone. In Freud's view, past experiences determine a person's character and behavior, making it difficult to change oneself. Individual psychology, however, offers a chance for self-transformation. Adler also places great emphasis on the impact of childhood experiences, and when his patients encounter problems, he looks for reasons within their childhood. But he differs significantly from Freud in one aspect. Adler believes that experiences cannot determine a person's actions, as individuals can creatively interpret their own experiences. What does that mean? For example, if a child grows up in poverty, enduring an unhappy childhood, are they destined to be unhappy when they grow up? In Adler's view, not necessarily. They might also become a very happy person. The child's experiences are unchangeable, but what they learn from those experiences is uncertain. They might think that life is unfair, and others have joyful childhoods while theirs is miserable, leading them to self-pity and despair. On the other hand, they might think that they must change their situation and ensure their own children enjoy a happy childhood. Adler, therefore, asserts that environmental factors cannot determine our destiny. We can change our fate by interpreting our experiences creatively. He also cautions teachers and parents never to claim that genetics or experiences determine a child's ability. What truly binds a person's ability is their own thoughts. This viewpoint is uplifting, as Adler does not believe that objective factors determine human behavior. Instead, he provides the possibility for self-change. You can creatively interpret your experiences, change your thoughts, and through personal effort, change your behavior. This is not mere motivational talk from Adler, but a theory distilled from his personal experiences. As previously mentioned, Adler initially performed poorly in school, particularly in mathematics, feeling untalented. His father's constant encouragement and a successful attempt at solving a complex math problem boosted his confidence, changed his attitude towards mathematics, and led to improved performance. Adler, in his book, argues that his personal experience disproves the idea that abilities are innate. This is a rebuttal to Freud, whose theories carry a deterministic tone, implying that innate factors and past experiences determine a person's behavior and cannot be changed. In Adler's view, this is nonsense. He firmly opposes it, believing that everyone has the ability through their efforts to change their behavior, pursue excellence, and achieve a turnaround. That's why his theory is called individual psychology, emphasizing the subjective initiative of each individual. Essentially, it means that no matter what environment you are in or what experiences you've had, you always have the opportunity to change yourself. Creatively interpreting your own experiences and changing your thinking opens the possibility of altering your behavior. So what should you do next? Adler gives you a method. Recognize your own goals. In Adler's view, what determines our actions is not our past experiences, but our future goals. Why is this so? Adler illustrates this with an example involving himself. He says, "Suppose I bring a ladder into the classroom and climb up to sit on the blackboard, refusing to come down. The students would surely say, 'Oh my, Dr. Adler must be mad.' But if they knew that my purpose was to overcome inferiority, that I would feel tall and secure only by sitting above the class and looking down, they would not find it strange, but rather reasonable." This example shows that what truly decides a person's behavior is the goal they want to achieve. If you want to change yourself, you must recognize your goal. Once you've aligned your goal, you'll be like an archer, tightening both body and spirit, letting all your actions serve this anchored goal. So Adler says that we have always tried to correct or treat people's behaviors by addressing the behaviors themselves, solely seeking to eliminate symptoms. But in individual psychology, this approach won't work. To change behavior, you must first change the goal. Take another example. He talks about a man who frequently suffers from headaches but never finds relief. Adler argues that the man uses his headaches as a way to avoid problems, aiming to escape immediate issues. For instance, a headache allows him to avoid meeting strangers and enables him to make unreasonable demands on his wife or colleagues, saying things like, "My head hurts so much, you must help me." For this man, headaches are a treasure, satisfying many of his needs. Why would he want to give up this affliction? Therefore, unless he realizes this and changes his purpose, the headaches won't be cured. Even if they were, he would develop other ailments, such as insomnia or depression, continuing to use these illnesses to achieve his goals. If Freud represents determinism, then Adler can be said to advocate purposiveness. In Adler's perspective, every behavior has a goal and is influenced by that goal. If you want to change a behavior, you can't just treat the symptoms, you must address the purpose behind the behavior itself. In summary, today's second question is, how to change one's behavior to achieve self-transcendence. In individual psychology, by creatively interpreting our life experiences, we can change our thoughts, break free from the influence of past experiences on our behavior, and open the possibility of changing ourselves. By taking control and setting goals, allowing our actions to serve those goals, we can spark behavioral changes and realize self-transcendence. Part 3. The question we're going to explore next is how to realize one's life's meaning in the process of self-transcendence. First, let's look at Adler's understanding of the meaning of life. In Adler's view, all the difficulties encountered in life, whether for humanity as a whole or ordinary individuals like us, can be boiled down to three problems: vocational issues, social interaction, and marital problems. Vocational issues involve cooperation and division of labor in society, social interaction concerns relations between individuals, and marital problems require collaboration between partners. Thus, all three are fundamentally about cooperation. The meaning of life lies in how to deal with these three issues. Adler concludes that a person's meaning can only be manifested in interaction and collaboration with others. If you separate yourself from others, then your life's meaning is reduced to zero. Therefore, the meaning of life is to contribute to others and society as a whole. Since all problems are about cooperation and life has only social meaning, how do we realize our life's meaning in the process of self-transcendence? The answer is becoming clear by establishing cooperative relationships with others. How to achieve cooperation will depend on the specific situation. Through Adler's theories, we can derive a practical guideline. Don't focus solely on yourself in anything you do, but always consider your collaborative partners. The following is an illustration of this guideline, using Adler's views on one of the three major human problems: marriage. Adler believes that marriage requires the joint efforts of two people. This involves both love between partners and the education of the next generation. Let's first look at how spouses interact. Adler says that many unhappy marriages stem from the belief held by many men and even women that the man should be the head of the household and dominate the woman. This indicates a lack of understanding of cooperation. What does cooperation mean? It means that neither party should be in a subordinate position, and the status of both individuals should be equal. If one party constantly dominates or even coerces the other, how can that be called cooperation? Therefore, such marriages are bound to be unhappy. So what should the correct sense of cooperation look like? Adler believes that both spouses, especially men, must understand that a man's dominant position is a result of social and cultural factors. Therefore, if you earn more money than your wife, That's normal and a reasonable division of labor in family life. You shouldn't feel superior just because you earn more. Men should not focus on making or spending money or solely on the division of labor in the household, but should establish an equal cooperative relationship with their wives, recognizing their contributions and jointly managing the family. Of course, this applies to both partners. Women should also establish a cooperative relationship with their husbands. Adler concludes that to have a happy marriage, the key is to actively care for the other person, and the degree of your concern for your partner should exceed that for yourself. That is real cooperation. If you have experience in marriage or love, you'll undoubtedly find Adler's words to be filled with wisdom. Now let's look at the issue of educating the next generation. In Adler's view, whether in school education or family education, the most important goal is to cultivate a child's ability to cooperate with others. We must never allow the child to become a selfish person who only focuses on themselves. Adler uses the example of an Oedipus complex here. Why would a grown man become pathologically attached to his mother? Adler says it's because the man hasn't established cooperative relationships with others. His mother complies with his every whim, but aside from his mother, he cannot cooperate with anyone else. Therefore, he becomes more intensely dependent on his mother, wanting to possess her. If he could establish cooperative relationships with others, he wouldn't have an Oedipus complex. The term Oedipus complex was coined by Freud, who thought it was a sexual issue, where a man wants to marry his mother and kill his father, but according to Adler's explanation, it's not about desiring the mother, but rather a lack of ability to cooperate with others. In modern terms, this is called being a mama's boy. So Adler says that as a mother, one must not overly pamper a child, as this can lead to losing the ability to cooperate with others. A mother must first establish a cooperative relationship with her child, then extend this relationship to include the child's father, and later expand it to build the child's trust in others. The child should not focus solely on themselves, but should learn to care for others. The same principle applies to marriage, career, and interpersonal relationships. You need to shift your focus from yourself to your collaborative partners and establish cooperative relationships. In Adler's view, the highest praise for a person is to say that they are a good employee at work, a good friend among friends, and a good partner in love and marriage. If one can achieve these three things, they can realize the meaning of life. What I've discussed above is the third question: how to realize the meaning of life in the process of self-transcendence. In individual psychology, all human problems are cooperation problems. The meaning of life lies in contributing to the whole of human society. Therefore, to realize the meaning of life, one must establish cooperation with others in the process of transcending oneself. Don't overly focus on yourself, but always think of the interests of your collaborative partners. Summary. With this, we have come to the end of the main content of what life could mean to you, and let's take a moment to review. First, we discussed the motivation for self-transcendence. The conclusion is that feelings of inferiority and superiority act like two horses, one pushing and one pulling, providing the force for our self-transcendence. But in this process, we must be careful not to fall into the pitfall of an inferiority complex due to excessive anxiety. Next, we talked about how to achieve self-transcendence by changing our behavior. Individual psychology believes that we can create the possibility of changing behavior by creatively interpreting our experiences and altering our thoughts. Then, by setting goals and aligning our actions with those goals, we can change our behavior. Finally, we discussed how to realize the meaning of life in the process of self-transcendence. Adler considers the three major problems of life: career, interpersonal relationships, and marriage to be essentially cooperation problems. Only by constantly considering cooperation with others, focusing on the interests of others and society, and shifting our attention from ourselves to our cooperative partners, can we realize the meaning of life. Adler's book has been around for about 100 years. Some of its scientific knowledge and values may seem outdated today, which is understandable. Many researchers have criticized Adler's theories from a methodological standpoint, arguing that he relies too heavily on common-sense observation, which cannot be repeated or verified, and that various materials were not obtained under scientifically valid conditions. Nevertheless, we can still see the brilliance of the master's thoughts in this book. I'll briefly share my reading experience. In our era, as Adler stated, everyone feels inferior and is pursuing self-transcendence and social mobility, anxiously chasing unclear goals. Many people suffer in this process, constantly asking themselves, do the things I'm doing have any value? What is the meaning of my life? Adler's individual psychology provides us with a method of judgment. If looked at in isolation, an individual's self-meaning has no meaning. Therefore, we must place ourselves within a broader value system, observe from a higher dimension, and see ourselves as part of the human system. Only in this way can we find a behavioral standard for ourselves and clearly see whether our actions as ordinary people have meaning and whether they contribute to the advancement of human society.
Thanks for watching and being part of our channel, where art meets sustainability and style speaks volumes.